7 unanswered questions about fucking Chucky.
This isn't my first question, but why do these two look so much alike? It's kind of bizarre.
Number 1.
What happened to the nanny cam footage that Ian placed that captured everything? And
Number 2.
why wasn't this used in Nika's defense in court? You'll have to forgive me, I've been extremely under the weather. So if it sounds like I've had a coat hanger shoved down my throat about 96 times, that's probably why. But after taking dangerous levels of Dayquil, here I am. I think this is one of the biggest missed opportunities of the franchise. And they could have did something different. And here's why. Hear me out. So in this film, as you know, Ian straps a nanny cam to Chucky to catch his wife and the nanny trying to get some behind his back. He knows what's up.
Give me a hell yeah!
But that camera winds up catching way more than infidelity. After Ian activates the live feed on the camera never turns off. Now this is interesting because it captures almost everything in the movie. Barb's death, Ian's death, Chucky talking, Chucky moving. That would have explained the rat poison that becomes an evidence exhibit during Nika's trial. This was Nika's get out of jail free card. But suddenly, poof, they never showed it being destroyed, taken off. No one picks it up. It's not logged as evidence. Never mentioned in the trial. Matter of fact, it's never mentioned again. And Nika takes the fall for it. So the prosecution basically goes, yes, she's a paraplegic in the wheelchair, but she somehow managed to murder everybody in the house, somehow managed to overpower grown men, grown women, even though she was clearly outnumbered, with very limited mobility, and everybody in the home was just defenseless against her. Yeah, okay. Now imagine if they did catch Chucky on camera, actually seeing him kill. At this point, we have gone multiple movies without a single working camera in sight. Places where there should have been cameras. The Good Guy Doll Factory in Part 2 didn't have cameras. Multi-million-dollar company. You don't have cameras? The Kent Military School definitely should have had them. The Sleazy Motel and Bride of Chucky. Okay, New York, whatever. The Hollywood Studio and Seat of Chucky should have had cameras. Because that movie set facility in Hollywood is owned by a multi-billion-dollar company. No cameras. Jennifer Tilly's house. No cameras. What good is a multi-million-dollar house with a security system but not one single camera? Guys, I am asking you, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone? But imagine this. This time Chucky got caught, pointing straight at the killer the whole time. And yet they just threw the idea away like it never happened. It confuses me. There's no payoff, no explanation, nothing. That footage could have blown this case wide open and actually given this franchise a terrifying twist if people knew Chucky was alive. They learned that he's real. Could you imagine then? Because things would get real damn serious. You would have mass paranoia across the entire country. You wouldn't know if this good guy doll is possessed or not. They could have kept that dark, gritty feel from this film, Curse of Chucky, and recycled that atmosphere. And you could have had multiple movies. Or they could have went that route with a TV show, like an anthology of some sorts. Different families, different victims. People know Chuck is alive. But out of the hundreds, thousands of dolls out there, they don't know which one's going to slice their ass up. I'm down for that. But that's a tangent. Enough with this what if scenario. Back to the nitty gritty. This camera was there. We never see on screen that nanny cam being taken off. So what happened to it? We never see Chucky take it off. Is it still somewhere in the house? Why wasn't it logged as evidence? What happened to this biggest piece of evidence of Nika's freedom? Her alibi. And why is this subject never brought up again? This camera caught Chucky red-handed. Literally.
Number 3.
What voodoo was Charles planning with Sarah? And where was his safe house? Is it the Pierce residence? Let's talk about it. This one gets slept on a little bit, but I never heard it talked about nonetheless. We finally see Charles Lee Ray's connection to the Pierce family with flashback scenes, and his new obsession with the Pierce family. But let's talk about the bigger picture behind it. Literally. So we know the surface level story. Charles becomes obsessed with Sarah, kidnaps her after her husband's funeral, and keeps her tied up in some hidden location until the police are tipped off. And we learn later that it's Tiffany via the TV show. And that leads to the chase where Charles gets gunned down in that toy store. Now I have a very interesting revelation about the gap between these scenes. Now in the film it implies that it's just mere moments between when the cops arrive and when Mike Norris chases Charles to when Charles faces his death. But that's not true. There's actually a 5-day gap between the two. There's a very interesting timeline over the span of these 5 days. But I'll talk about that in my number 8, 9, and 10. So let's get back on track. If you look at where Charles got Sarah tied up, where did the safe house come from? This definitely isn't his apartment. His Chicago apartment had stone walls, candles, a shrine to Damballa painted directly on the wall. And despite this film taking place in Rhode Island, It's known that these flashback scenes take place in Chicago in 1988. Sarah is tied up in what looks like an underground basement of some sort. It has unfinished concrete, overhead plumbing lines or drain lines, HVAC ducts, and then a full-blown voodoo altar set up just a few feet from her. Now, could this be Sarah's own residence? We do get this line from Barb in the movie.
Who's that? Some neighbor back in Chicago, I guess.
I'm not sure if this line holds any weight or not, but it's a better insight than nothing. But part of me doesn't think so, because the old family film shows them either at a park or somebody has a huge backyard. Notice things like the volleyball net and such, the swing, but where she's held up.
Wait a minute. Damn, who is that?
Anyway, but where she's held up is at the bottom of some apartments. This doesn't match the location of Charles's apartment, so it remains a mystery where this location lies. Now, there's a news report that might confirm that this is Sarah's residence, but again, I go into that in my number 10, because it's more relevant to that question, talking about the 5-day gap between the time she's tied up and Charles's death. But back to the elephant in the room. What was Charles planning to do here? I think it's a lot more than being just a perfect family.
Well, what's gonna happen when the baby comes?
So if that's the case, what's with the voodoo altar that she's placed in front of? Every time we see Damballa set up in this franchise, his paintings from part 1, John Bishop's voodoo den, the amulet, it always connects to ritual work of some kind. Charles doesn't set up voodoo dolls and do these chants for shits and giggles. There's always a reason. So what's his end game with Sarah? Was Charles trying to build a family tied through voodoo somehow? Would he eventually sacrifice Sarah to Damballa? Because he sacrificed victims for Damballa in the past. Is this the same scenario? The backdrop here makes me think that there was a big picture at play before he got caught up with police. Something bigger. Something long term. We know from C to Chucky, that Charles has no problem with the idea of family, as long as he's in control. And we know from the TV show that Charles and Tiffany was together and killing during this time. And Tiffany knew about this ordeal because she's the one that tipped the cops off, particularly Mike Norris, that got Charles caught. So what does it all mean? Again, the altar isn't just for show. Charles doesn't make Damballa vigils and lights up candles just for the fun of it. Whatever he was about to do before the cops showed up, I think it would have changed things majorly. But I just don't know what it is. Why did he place Sarah in the basement in front of a Damballa altar with voodoo practices? What was his endgame? Let me know your thoughts down below.
Number 5.
Is Nika faking her disability? Now this is going to sound absolutely outrageous, and this is more of a comedic question, not a serious one. So let's have some fun with this one. Because what if I told you that there's a scene in this film of Nika walking? Let's watch that clip right here. Now, if we dissect this scene right here, in case you didn't notice the first time, there is something majorly wrong here. As you know, Nika is a paraplegic. The way Nika is standing in this door is literally impossible for somebody who's paralyzed. What? We can see a level where Nika should be when she opens the door at the beginning of the film where they receive the good guy doll. Nika's eye level is almost at the doorknob. If you see right here in the scene, she is way above that eye level. Matter of fact, this doorknob will be nearly at her waistline, so she has to be standing up. Also, her face being inches away from this door is literally impossible for somebody in a wheelchair. If you see Nika throughout the film, or anybody in a wheelchair in general, you know that their legs protrude out a certain amount of feet, plus the feet rest at that. Nika's face cannot be this close to the door. That and this door cannot be cracked. That and we literally see her just walk away from the door. I'll play it in slow motion for you. Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces passing, I'm homebound.
What the fuck?
But this isn't the only time we see Nika use her legs. Another example, when Nika crawls to the elevator to escape Chucky, she bends her legs in order to shut the elevator door. And when she's thrown out the balcony, she's just hightailing her legs in every direction possible. Her legs are doing this. They should be doing this. Now, jokes aside, the entire point of the 10 Things series is not to break the fourth wall. So no production errors, continuity errors, fuck-ups, they don't exist in Chucky's universe. So how is Nika standing at that door and walking away as she closes it? I don't know. I noticed. But another interesting aspect about this is that in the next film, Cult of Chucky, we learn that if Chucky possesses somebody with a disability, the voodoo overrides that. Which really makes me wonder, how far can Chucky go with this? For instance, he possesses Nika, right? Which is a paraplegic, and now she can walk just fine. If he was to possess a blind person, would he regain his vision? What if somebody was deaf? Would his hearing come back? Now, the voodoo continuity and rules is all over the place anyway, but it really makes me wonder that we do see Nika actually walking in the film without breaking the fourth wall. That maybe she had more mobility than we initially thought. But maybe Nika had this great escape plan to go to Europe. Now, this is one I can't explain. But as always, let me know what you think.
Number 6.
Rapid fire round.
If Ian is working at Starbucks
Ian's working at Starbucks.
and your print media is dead,
Well, you know we've been struggling. Print media is dead.
how are you paying this nanny $400 a week?
$400 a week.
That's more than I make.
Now, is Barb paying her with cash money or the mm-mm?
It's a doll. What's the worst that can happen, huh?
Well...
Oops. Wrong movie.
So if this package came from an evidence depository in Los Angeles, why is it on a delivery truck with Illinois license plates going to Rhode Island? What? Y'all need to fix them goddamn roof leaks. I'm talking about the bedroom, the attic. You ever heard of mold? Have you ever heard of the roof falling in? So when Barb finds these two paintings of the sunflowers, notice how they look, the left and the right. But all of a sudden when she turns around, those same photos are behind her. Like, come on, Dawn, just use the other side of the wall. Is Chucky applying his own makeup off screen in this film? This is another quick one, but interesting nonetheless. This is another blink and you miss a moment that I never hear anybody talk about. But it's very blatantly obvious, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. So in the quick flashback scene, where Sarah's actual death is revealed, instead of seeing it off screen, like in the beginning of the movie, Chucky has his trademark fully stitched face. The reason that's extremely odd is that when Chucky arrives at Sarah's house, he has a fully clean face. And after her death, he has a fully clean face when the cops arrive to investigate the crime scene. This clean look is what we see for the majority of the film. Now once again, fourth wall, that would have to mean that somehow Chucky got his latex appliance ripped off. Maybe there was a scuffle we never saw, and Sarah put up a fight. But that means that Chucky had to reapply his latex appliance right after murdering Sarah so he can keep up the facade of the brand new good guy doll. And once again, once you see this and you watch the film, you will never unsee this again because it's so out of place. Stitch Chucky has no business being here. And given the time frame, it just doesn't make any sense. Small detail here, but I think it's pretty cool regardless. Finally, I've been waiting on this one. So this is my number 8, 9, and 10. Now my number 8 alone is a 2-part question. So,
Number 8.
part 1, what happened in those 5 days that Charles Lee Ray went missing? And
Number 8.
part 2, who were the unidentified bodies in Sarah's house?
Number 9.
Does this expand Mike Norris's character from the original film? And
10.
why is there such a huge discrepancy on Charles's death date? Now this is a long one. I'm just going to talk about the front to back. Now that we finally have these flashbacks from Curse of Chucky and the TV series filling in the blanks, it's good to have these gaps filled with some context. But this film also creates gaps, 2 major ones, and it also adds questions, like the unidentified bodies in Sarah's house. So this news report that we see here might confirm that she was held at her own residence. So in the film, when we get the flashback scenes, the seamless transition between Charles getting caught holding Sarah captive and the time he gets shot down in the Playland toy store is supposed to be mere moments from each other. But according to the news article Nika's reading, before shit hits the fan, it actually creates a brand new timeline over a 5-day gap. And the timeline goes as follows. The kidnapping with Sarah took place on a Friday night. When police arrived due to a welfare check, Charles escapes and successfully eludes police. Saturday, Sunday, Charles shoots a police officer who tried to stop and question him over the weekend. Sunday and Monday, events unknown. Early Tuesday morning, Mike Norris catches Charles and Charles dies in the toy store shootout. So what did Charles do for those 3 days that he just vanished? But that's not even the weirdest thing. So now that we know it took place in a 5-day span instead of mere moments from each other, in the opening of Child's Play, the original, when Mike Norris is chasing Charles, there's a moment most people miss. Mike tosses something away before chasing him into the toy store. Look closely. It looks like a coat or disguise. Now that lines up with the newspaper saying Charles was seen by an undercover cop before he died. So maybe Mike was doing some undercover cop work between the years 1984 and 1988, where he spent those 4 years trying to track down the Lakeshore Strangler. Going back real quick to that same news report about Sarah's kidnapping, the news article also states that police came due to a welfare check, and when they forced themselves in, they found multiple bodies. Now who could these bodies be? The husband was already gone. He already had his funeral. So could it have been any of the individuals that we see on the old family tape and that we see later on in the movie in the flashback scenes? Perhaps Sarah's closest friends? Some unnamed family? Or was he using Sarah's house as a dumping ground, the unnamed victims that he randomly killed in 1988? Makes you wonder for sure. Also, the last thing I want to touch on is that they say that Charles died on a Tuesday morning. But later in the series, we see multiple times on his headstone that he died on November 9th, 1988, which was on a Wednesday, not a Tuesday. So what gives? And I love newspapers and news articles and films, but I'm really questioning the validation on this one, considering they can't even spell the words early or bystander correctly. But I mean, it was put into the film for a reason. So I feel like it has some importance, even if it's minor. So what do you think about all this? Now that we know that it was a 5-day gap instead of mere hours. Now that we know that Tiffany knew about this. Did Chucky go to Tiffany during these 5 days? Was Mike Norris undercover in the opening of the original film? That's an entire story that we never got right there. Whose dead bodies are stashed in Sarah's house that the police found? Why does nobody know the exact date that Charles died? What the hell's going on here? That's going to wrap this video up, guys. Thank you so much for taking part to kick it with me. You know I appreciate it. But until next time, guys, I'll see you in Cult of Chucky. Speaking of Cult of Chucky, if you have any theories of your own, feel free to drop it in the Discord. The Discord is absolutely free, just a hangout spot. You can drop your theories, tell me about your day, how good it was, how bad it was. We talk about life, talk about music, we talk about comics, we talk about everything under the sun. So if you have a theory and it really holds some weight, and it's unique and I like it, I will credit you in the video. I also have a YouTube membership where you get early access to all my videos. I often do giveaways. You get custom loyalty badges, custom emojis, priority replied comments. The list goes on and on. It's beneficial for you and me. You'll be supporting me and this channel. With that being said, guys, I love you all. Until next time, Cult of Chucky. Adios.